Whoever shows up, shows up. All right. So where are we at? We're going to do the discipleship. We're going to start with discipleship study again. And where are we at?
13, 1 to 14.
13, 1 to 14. All right. So I'm going to start with verses 1 to 9. It says, on the same day, Yahusha went out of the house and sat by the sea. And great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, such and such and such. We're not going to get into the actual teachings right now, but the concept we get here clearly is Yahusha went out of the house and sat by the sea, and great multitudes were gathered together to him, so that he got into a boat and sat. So again, he's going out into the public. He has a reputation. People are gathering together to hear what he has to say. What does that look like today? We're doing it right now. I have Facebook Live going. I haven't done YouTube Live, but I'm sure if I did YouTube Live, we get some people that are on the computer and can get a notification that, oh, Devoted to Yah is live right now. Let me hear what he has to say. So these people would be considered the multitudes. You know, I'm preaching, I'm teaching, and there's people, you know, listening. But they're not part of this inner circle, you know, the inner family that I gather with more intimately. So that's kind of how I see, that's how I see this thing here. And he sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore, and he spoke many things to them in parables. So again, he is conducting a lesson. He's conducting a teaching, a study. That is what teachers do. And so let's go to
10 to 14.
Yeah, verse 10 now. And it says, and the disciples came and said to him, why do you speak to them in parables? Hear the distinction here. The disciples are saying, why are you speaking to them? So apparently Yahusha wasn't speaking to his disciples. This was designed, Yahusha intentionally was teaching to this multitude. And the disciples might have just came along and like, why are you speaking to them in parables? So there is there's clearly a distinction here. And he answered and said to them, because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. So you see this distinction, the intimacy, the revelation. I think it has a lot to do with also these disciples are spending more time with the teacher. So a lot of these people, for example, that are listening to me via Facebook or listen to me via YouTube, but don't really get the off-the-record conversations, the conversations during the week, they're going to be missing out on a lot of my understandings and a lot of my beliefs, you know. And on the top, whatever topic we discuss, they're going to have a limited understanding because they're only getting what I share while I'm in that teaching mode, you know, or sharing mode, you know, the studies. So, but here the Yahusha acknowledges his disciples. They know the mysteries of the kingdom. And I'm sure we looked at other passages. It's probably all after this where Yahusha breaks down the parables and everything like that. But again, man, I wish we had more of what those conversations and meetings were like with Yahusha and his disciples, more in depth. Thank you, Daisy. That was a sign for me to go forward. Let's see.
13:34 to 36. Ezzy, we are doing the discipleship study first, and we're in Matthew 13, I have verses 34 to 36.
Thank you. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Yeah, all this is the teaching. I might want to skip this. Skip through all this. Parable of the week. I mean, we can go into this. Some of this is very applicable to discipleship. Let's read the parable of the sower. This is a good one. So therefore, hear the parable of the sower.
What verse?
Verse 18. So chapter 13, verse 18. Therefore, hear the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, again, this is applicable to the multitudes, disciples, the distinction between the two. So I'm going to be preaching. We as teachers or shepherds teach, we preach to people that we're not even intimate with, right? When anyone hears these words, the preaching of the kingdom, and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. It's going to happen. A multitude of people. There's going to be a multitude of people. I got 4,000 something subscribers on YouTube. Okay. I got people listening and probably watching me right now on Facebook Live. And there's going to be somebody out there who's not going to catch the revelation. It's just the way it is. And that seed, that word that was planted, the wicked one comes and snatches away that which was sown in his heart. This is he who received seed by the wayside. But he who received the seed on stony places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures only for a while. For when tribulation or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Right? I've seen this so many times. There's so many people that receive the gospel. They love that Yahusha died for them. And they're like, oh, it's such a loving story. And it's so emotional. And they receive it. They're excited. Man, I feel good. I'm awake. I'm alert. I'm a new man. But tribulation and persecution arises. People starting to tell them, yo, man, why you following this way? You know, it's whack, man. Come back and come on this side where things are more fun. And people start hurting you and persecuting you and stabbing you in the back and blasting your name, slandering you, gossiping about you. So these things start to happen and people get discouraged. And because of the word, immediately he stumbles. Now he who received seed among the thorns is he who hears the word and the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becomes unfruitful. So I see this as a workaholics, people who are going job after job, chasing the money down, and they don't have time for fellowship. They don't have time to pray. They don't have time to read the word. I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. You know, you have to invest into your walk. You have to invest. Seek first the kingdom and righteousness, and other things will be added unto you. You know, if you don't pour in, you reap what you sow. If you don't sow into the spirit, you won't be able to reap spiritual rewards. You can't reap spiritual growth if you're not pouring in to your spiritual walk. But he who received seed on the good ground, is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and produce, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. I see this as, I didn't mention it, I mentioned this off record yesterday when we were talking. I believe that Yahusha sends little invitations for people to become more intimate and be disciples. You know, I believe in his messages, there's this invitation to, do you guys want to really get involved and be more, more than just hearers? You know, do you really want to follow me? And I think this is one of them, especially when he's talking about, when he talks about later on, go and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded. I'm sure this is something that he taught and preached because it's connected to the kingdom, the gospel of the kingdom. So anybody got anything? I know I'm going really quick. Just trying to cover a lot of ground here. Let's see. So he speaks another parable in verse 24.
Oh,
you got something? Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I want to know is, as disciples, is something that we have to learn, that there are these distinctions, because, the ones that come in that have seen a seed that's actually being choked up by thorns, or actually just come in and they stumble out, like, we have to also grow in that discernment as well to know, hey, this person seem to be a disciple or seem to be a student, seem to be a son of the Most High or daughter of Most High, but it's actually not one that's produced in the 30, 60, 100-fold. You know what I'm saying? So we have to grow in that discernment too. And there are these classifications. Some come in and be like, why do they leave so quickly? We have to have that settled in our heart. Not everybody's going to endure to the end, as unfortunate as that is. So.
That's a good point. I like that. With that being said, let's read 24 to 30. Let's read 24 to 30 because that's also related. I like what you said. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Verse 24, another parable he put forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Man, this is doubt, seeds of doubt, seeds of, oh, this isn't what Yahuwah really meant. Oh, here's the it really depends on how you want to see it, the passage. I see it, it's all these little subtle little doubts, and so these things get planted while they're sleeping. This is why it's important for us to be alert and sober at all times. We're going to have a lot of trials, tribulations, emotional things happen in our life. It's easy to lose our sobriety and not be able to keep our radar discernment up because of circumstances that are happening in our life. But it's really important to stay alert at all times. What people are saying to you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that all these things, when you're talking about sowing doubt and things like that, comes from people. Like these tares are people, and so you have those people who come in and seem like, I love, because Ezzy sent a video about tares and wheat and chaff and how much they look so much alike. Like it is hard to tell them until they mature. You can't tell the difference. So that video was really, really good. So as I'm reading this, I'm thinking about that. And it's true. Even us, we look at someone because they call on the name of Yahuwah, because they're able to recite scriptures, because they know the lingo. It's the same way in any religion either. There's this a facade. And this is who the enemy plants. These are the wolves that are in sheep's clothing. And I think that's something to, be mindful of. If they're sowing doubt, is it something, are they really a brother and sister that need to grow and they have a spirit on them? Or is this an enemy's child? So it's kind of like.
Yep. One thing I want to let y'all know is regardless of the intention of the person, I need you guys to understand that it's still the enemy. So whether the person is very sincere in planting seeds of doubt and this gray area of truth, or whether he's intentional about it, regardless, it's the enemy. And your mindset has to be, I don't receive that. You know what I mean? That doesn't sound legitimate to me. That sounds a little confusing. That sounds a little watered down, so keep that in mind. Because I feel like that's a slippery slope. We start trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Oh, he's probably sincere. And it's like, no, put your guard up. No, have your guard up and let the person know you don't agree. I don't agree with what you just said. I don't know, something about it, it's not registering. Whatever. All right, but anyways. 26. Verse 26. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares? He said to them, An enemy has done this. The servant said to him, Do you want us then to go and gather them up? But he said, No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to bury them, but gather the wheat into my barn. I really love how he breaks this down. I want to read where he breaks this story down, because a lot of people think that this is about, let these fake hypocrite wolves in sheep's clothing folk hang out with us in the assembly. Let them be part of our group. And that's not what that's talking about. That's talking about letting them be in the world, letting them exist on the planet Earth and wait for Judgment Day. But we'll get there. All right, parable of the mustard seed. It's important to have faith. Parable of leaven.
36 is where they start describing it.
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay.
34. Yep,
Yeah,
34.
Yeah.
Let's touch on 34 regarding discipleship. So verse 34, all these things Yahusha spoke to the multitude in parables, and without a parable, he did not speak to them, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. I mean, I'm really considering maybe utilizing more of these parables when talking to people who are not part of the inner circle, the discipleship family here. You know, it might be a good way to see who's really hungry and who really wants to understand, who wants to go deeper when you're kind of like a little broad over the surface. You know, like if I'm preaching the gospel, preach the gospel, you know, preach the gospel straightforward. We got to be straightforward with the gospel evangelism, but like using examples in the world that they can understand, like the courtroom, getting debt, you know, a person who's sick in the hospital. We were talking about the other day, right? A person who's sick, who has cancer or whatever, you know, the doctor's going to explain the bad news and then give the good news. Ezzy, go ahead. Your hand's up. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think it all goes back to critically thinking. Just like Yahusha, when he spoke to the leaders, so to speak, he was always asking them questions. That's going to provoke thought. But with these sheep that we're speaking to, all they have is life experiences. And I think Yahusha, you know, knows the heart of man, that we have an imagination, and the way our brain works. You know, some things don't resonate unless you can paint a picture of it to make it plain. So and every time you read the parable, depending on what you're going through in your own life, you'll read it or understand it differently. So I think that is something very intentional, that I didn't think about in discipleship, because sometimes just talking to people about the word, everyone has different experiences. Like you talk about the PTSD of dealing with churches. So, you know, sometimes you're not going to reach people that way if it's too scriptural or too, you know, biblical. But Yahusha definitely had his way with words. So I agree with that.
Amen.
Now,
go ahead. Yep.
Now with the parables, he wasn't making it so plain, because I'll find the verses where it says, because these people have ears, but they cannot hear, eyes, because they cannot see. And then he tells his disciples, specifically to the disciples, but to you, the secrets of the kingdom have been known. Because even the disciples were saying, what does this mean? And so then he would break it down. And sometimes he got to the point where he's saying, you still don't understand what I'm talking about? Like, and I think that's what that relationship goes with when, you know, we start using life examples and things like that. First, you're kind of like, huh? And then at times you're like, okay, I understand, because I know my teacher's voice. I understand what he's saying now, and I get it. So there is some that distinction with the multitudes in regards to whether or not they understood or not the parables. So I think they weren't, because they weren't meant to at that time, unless they were.
So using discernment, maybe having discernment, who your audience is, who you're talking to, you know, choosing how you're going to talk to them. But I think we should gather all these parables, all the scriptures that Yahusha used to speak to multitudes, and utilize that when speaking to people who are not believers yet in Yahusha, who are not believers in the scriptures yet, you know, things like that. I don't know, that's just a thought right now that I never thought of doing before, you know. Yeah, because if you look right here, you definitely see it. All these things he spoke to the multitudes in parables, and without a parable, he did not speak to them. That he was trying to fulfill prophecy. That's what he was doing.
Oh, here, I got
Verse 36. You got something?
Yeah, in the same chapter, 13, verse 13. It says, therefore speak I to them in parables. Verse 13.
Okay.
Same chapter 13, verse 13.
Okay.
Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Yeshayahu, which says, by hearing you shall hear and shall not understand, and seeing you shall see and shall not perceive. For the people's hearts is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should turn back, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear, talking to the disciples. For verily I say to you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see the things which you see and have not seen them, and to hear the things which you hear and have not heard them. And then he goes on to the actual parables.
I think that's very clear. I think that's super clear. That's so relevant to any generation. That's not just relevant to that time. That's relevant today. There's people who can't hear. There's people who are blind. There's people who are deaf and dumb spiritually. It definitely applies today. So I could definitely see why it's applicable to use parables with certain people. And you know who to go deeper with and who not to go deeper with. You know how to invest your time or who to invest your time with. All right, let's go to verse 36. So it says, then Yahusha sent the multitude away. Right? So again, he didn't break down these parables to them. He straight up gave it to them without breaking it down. And then he sends them away and went into the house. Here we go. Intimacy, family time. And his disciples came to him saying, explain to us the parable of the tares of the field. So even they didn't understand the parables. But the point is, who am I willing to invest? They're hungry for it. They want it. They want to learn. They're asking questions. They're engaging with the teacher, right? While the other ones are like, oh, that was nice words that he said. That was deep. That was deep. That was real deep. You know, they walk away. And so the disciples asked him, explain to us the parable of the tares of the field. So here we go, verse 37. He answered and said to them, he who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. A little self-promotion there. The field is the world. Okay.
Not the congregation.
The good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one. Okay. So we are the messengers of Yahuwah. We are Yahuwah's seed, right? And we go and we plant, we go into somebody else, they produce and they become a seed. And that's it. We're multiplying ourselves. And we're all Yahuwah's seed, all the righteous people. We're going around preaching the good news. But the wicked one also has his sons, his children. The enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Therefore, as the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of this age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and all who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the fiery furnace. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned in regards to that the tares are not, this is not talking about the assembly specifically, like letting tares grow within the assembly, although we do know wolves will come in. But I do think it's
verse 38. Yep, it says the field is the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do know that tares do come into the assembly. Right?
Yes.
And I can see where it's applicable to assembly in this sense, where I've seen where leaders, you yourself, have given time to let someone expose themselves, right? Because you have discernment as a leader saying, something's off, but I don't have enough evidence, quote unquote, right? That we talk about the discernment and say, let time ride out and see it so that the young ones, the immature ones can say, oh, I get it. And I've seen that. We've done that with Jezebel spirits and stuff like that, where it's like, now we can knock it out because everybody's eye sees it. They see this is actually a tear, this, so in that sense I can see it, but it's not so that they can stay
right.
and keep growing and, stuff like that. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good. I agree. We've done it. I think we'll continue to do that. I think that was a good portion there. We'll probably skip a lot of this.
I have 53 to 54.
Yeah, let's skip that. 53, okay, yes. 53 and 54, chapter 13, Matthew. Now it came to pass when Yahusha had finished these parables that he departed from there. When he had come to his own country, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Something interesting that a sister said yesterday is back in the day. I mean, he said he went to the city and taught in their synagogue, singular. You know what I'm saying? So it was like one synagogue for a whole city. We live in a different time today where there's mad churches like on every block. All right. And so there's a lot of confusion out there, and it's harder to build a reputation. Not impossible, it's just harder, you know, because now you got different pockets of groups of people to try to build a reputation with. A lot of people don't go outside. A lot of people are stuck inside buildings, inside the house, you know, unless even when the weather's nice, a lot of people are still stuck inside. It's really due to technology. So we got a lot of work to do. You know, if we want to meet with people, we got to go where they're at. Brother Jeff and Zakiah are just talking about they're about to go to an anti-vaccination protest event. And there's an opportunity for them to network with people and talk to people. And a lot of times these people are really in tune and willing to receive, you know, the conspiracy stories and what scripture has to say about end times and all that, you know. So, but you know, that's just an example. We gotta get involved. But here, Yahusha, he taught them in their synagogue so that they were astonished and said, where did this man get this wisdom? Okay. And these mighty works. Go ahead.
Now my question is, since we're talking about disciples and discipleship and stuff, is this as a disciple to be expected of an elder or discipler that they are to teach or they are to go out to churches, or what is the application today? I
believe so. Now, I don't think you have to keep doing it at all times. You know what I'm saying? Like there's seasons where you could probably slow down a little bit, focus more on the people you have, right? I know for me, I have a limitation. I know I have a limitation. I know I can only handle but so many numbers of people. I don't like when groups start getting big. I feel like I lose the intimacy there. So, but there's other people that like big numbers. They like having a lot of people around, you know? So there might be a time where there's a season, I'm talking about a literal season, spring, summer, winter. There's a season where I will do a lot of outreach, and my disciples will be witnessing this. They'll be hearing about it, hearing the stories, and I'll get whoever I can get, you know, to join us from that. But I'm not going to keep on doing that like consistently. There might be a time where I might want to pause on the outreach. You know, I'll keep, you know, putting YouTube stuff up and videos or whatever, but want to focus more on the people that I have. That's how I think about it. But I think there's a diversity of this, you know. But I do, overall, the story should be, yes, a shepherd should be doing this. If we're to be following Yahusha and Yahusha's example and being a shepherd, being a leader, and going and making disciples, it would be nice to role model, at least have something under your belt so that people won't be like, oh, you never done this. Like, yeah, I have done it. You just weren't around to see all of it. But ask my 5 disciples who were here with me for the whole last year. They know what I did. You know what I mean? But then you might have the one that's just got that drive where they're able to do it. Every month they're going out and doing things. And so, you know, I want to respect everybody's different gifts and level of faith and boldness and all that.
Another question.
Go ahead.
Would this be expected of disciples, to given personalities and things like that, to still step into that, or maybe go to churches? And like, what is that?
Absolutely.
From the disciple?
Regardless if you're an introvert, extrovert, to me, that's not going to matter. You got a mouth and you can talk. So use your personality and do it to the best of your ability. For me, I care more about the content, you know, than the style and the delivery. So as long as your doctrine is sound and we're preaching the same stuff, what you preach is representing what we believe, what the leadership believes. That's what's important, you know. But yes, nobody is going to be exempt from this. It's just, that wouldn't be real good discipleship. How are you going to go and make disciples if you yourself can't even open your mouth and share the gospel with anybody, you know?
13 to 14.
I think I was still here.
Oh, okay.
So they said, where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Verse 55. Is this not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary and his brothers James? I don't have the sacred name scriptures here. So Yaakov, Simeon, Yehuda, mm-hmm. and his sisters, are they not all with us? Where then did this man get all these things? So they were offended at him. We're going to offend people in preaching the gospel and making disciples. It's going to happen. We have to role model it as well. If we're not offending anybody, we're not making good disciples. If we're only offending people, that's also not good. Okay? But it should be involved. But Yahusha said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country and his own house. Now, he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. That's common. That's common. It's going to happen. That's why it's good to roll in packs. That's why it's good to roll in packs. Have your people with you that haven't been brought up in the same place. Like I said, I think we mentioned that in the first video, how Yahusha ministered to Peter's family. And so that's good to have, people with us to minister to our family members, have our brothers and sisters minister to our blood relatives. All right, what's next?
13 to 14.
Oh, Ezzy, your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's important that, even when he says Nabai, there are those that have the gift of prophecy, but, by definition, that means to tell the truth or the word of Yah. So it should be expected in this walk, that you are going to offend people with the truth. And like the saying goes, the truth hurts. So I just wanted to bring context to that because a Nabai is not just, not that role or that office of prophecy, but also speaking the truth of Yah.
Mm-hmm. And Nabi or Nabai is prophet, right? Just for the audience. All right, cool. Thank you for that.
Matthew 14, verses 13.
Matthew 14,
13 to 14.
verses 13 to 14. Okay. When Yahusha heard it, he departed from, let me keep track of time. All right, 40. When Yahusha heard it, he departed from there by boat to a deserted place by himself. But when the multitudes heard it, they followed him on foot from their cities. That's dedication, y'all. That's the first thing I'm seeing right there. I mean, my man Yahusha took a boat. All right? He's taking the quick route. And these brothers are like, hold on. He went? I want to go too. We'll take the road. We will go, what? On foot. No car, no chariot. They went on foot. Dang.
This is the multitude.
This is the multitude, right? Yeah, when the multitudes heard it, that's true. They followed him on foot from their cities. You see, we're in charge of preaching the word. I'm sharing, I'm preaching, I am actively preaching the word. I've been doing it for the last few years, and I got a YouTube channel. I know people don't like it, regardless. You don't like technology, you don't, whatever, get with the times. I'm doing it. I'm reaching thousands of people on a regular basis. It's up to these people if they want to go further than just hearing me on social media. It's up to them, And my stuff is up there so that I can go around and let people know, hey, go to Devoted to Yah on YouTube. Check out my content. If you want to contact me, if you want to, join what we're doing, contact me. And that's what I'm going to do. When I go around my city, physically around my city, I'm going to advertise my YouTube channel because it has a lot of the teaching and the content which I taught, which I'm going to start adding parable videos, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to start doing. Definitely I'm going to have a playlist of all the parables. And I'm going to tell everybody that is new to the walk or whatever, go watch the parable videos. And if you want to go deeper, let me know. But see, they're lucky. They're lucky because back in the day, you didn't have that. You were either with where Yahusha was, you're going to hear what he has to say. If you're not present and you're not in attendance, you missed out. That's it. It's a one-shot deal. At least all my content is on YouTube. You have a whole library of things you can go back and rewind and pause and, you know what I'm saying? So like the ability for you to really dissect what somebody says nowadays, there's no excuse. But anyway, I'm just noticing the dedication here, man. My goodness. They followed him on foot to the cities. And when Yahusha went out, he saw a great multitude. And he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick. Man, that is one thing I definitely need to step up my game with. We've had so many people join this fellowship who are spiritually very sick. And it's like, we don't pray for them until we actually see something manifesting. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, something in me, something in my heart is saying to be a little bit more proactive about that. I'm not sure what it is yet, but something in me is telling me to be a little bit more engaging and forthcoming, straightforward and about that. But he was moved with compassion for them and healed their sick.
15 to 16.
When it was evening, his disciples came to him, saying, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is already late. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." Something interesting here. I don't know how this applies now, because all of us live in different places, cities, suburban areas, whatever. But like, I find it interesting that Yahusha was able to go somewhere and take people out of their element. He took them out of their environment. Sometimes that is the best thing to do, to be conducive, to have an atmosphere conducive to change and power and authority, is to get away from all the doubt and the sin and the negativity. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you might not be able to do, sometimes, don't misrepresent my words, because Yahusha went into houses and healed people in their houses too. But I'm just saying, like, we might see stories in Matthew where there were certain people that were able to go into a room because other people didn't have the same level of faith. They needed faithful people in the room to make sure healing was done. So it's important where you're at. So I think it's important that these people were taken out of their element into a deserted place to hear more of what Yahusha had to say. So the disciples are like, you know, this is a deserted place. It's late. Send the multitudes away, that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food. And then, you know, Yahusha, we know what happens here. He feeds them. Go ahead.
What I like about this is two things. One, it's evening. So he's saying there's time that has passed.
Yeah.
We are out and about. It's like, nowadays I have to picture this in the sense of we're at a park and we're outside all day long and people are coming and I don't know, there's people surrounded by us and talking about the gospel and things like that. And the disciples are saying, all right, can you remove them from us?
I'm just thinking of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I like these certain groups, not just the Black Hebrew Israelites, but Church of Christ, I know, does this. They gather in parks.
Mm-hmm.
They do Bible studies in parks under like what's it called? Pavilion?
Mm-hmm.
Under the pavilions. I think that's beautiful. I think it's very scriptural. And I might want to take advantage of that,
mm-hmm.
especially if we don't feel comfortable having strangers in our own home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be like, yo, we're going to meet at this park. We're meeting at this park. That's beautiful. And that will be a multitude, right? That will be your multitude.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're filtering and gauging who wants to go deeper. Mm-hmm. Do you really want to go deeper? You know? Anyway, you just provoked that thought in me.
Mm-hmm. And I like, though, that there is there's still a distinction to disciples. Like, this disciples, it sounds to me like they're saying, we still want to roll with you. Can you send them off? You know, it's evening. We're tired. We need to kind of get our chillax.
I want my time with you. I want my time with you now.
I do that a lot.
There's some things I need to talk to you about that I can't talk about in front of these folk. I don't know.
Can you send them off? You know, they're getting hungry. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, that's good.
But
Yahusha said they don't need to go away, guys.
Like,
Verse 16. You give them something to eat. The one that wanted them to go away, I'm giving you an assignment now to do something you feel uncomfortable with. That is a good leader. That is a good leader. To make you uncomfortable and get you out of your comfort zone. That is a good leader. That is a good coach. here's my opportunity to capitalize on something. And they said to him, we know the rest of the story, right?
22 to 23.
Yeah, let's skip. Let's go to.
I have 22 to 23.
Oh, by the way, having a meal with people, this is important to discipleship. Ezzy, I see your hand is up. I'm gonna let you go again. I'm not sure if that's from previously. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say he's mimicking what the Father did in a different light, though, because Yah would bring destruction or nakedness to land to get the people's attention back on him. And I think, you know, in that comment, one of the Talmudim said that it's a deserted place and the hour is already late. Once you pull someone out of their environment, they're no longer influenced by the environment or what's going on. So you can feed them. And instead of sending them away in that moment when they're really hungry, they've been pulled away from all the distractions, you want to send them back. It makes me think of Ruth when Naomi was like, go back to your mom. It's like, no. This is the time to be eating and being in the presence and being in agreement and nurturing that, so that when they do go back, they're not so gullible or weak anymore. They have strength to stand. I don't know if that's a stretch, but I just think
that's great.
Yeah, he's mimicking the Father. So
that is fantastic. Wow. Yeah, I'm more convicted about that now than I've ever was before, just by reading this now. Yeah, we definitely going to these parks. We're gonna try to do that.
It's so funny because I'm like those disciples. I'm like, send them off. I want my alone time. And he's like, no, but we need to give them more.
Yeah, I'm ready to go more. Like, no, more time.
I need to go.
Yeah. All right. Where'd you say? 22?
22 to 23.
All right. Chapter 13, verse 22 and on. Yep. Immediately, Yahusha made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. Okay. I don't know about you, but now it's not so much voluntary. This reads Yahusha made his disciples get in the boat. I don't know if there's a different translation, but it's like, all right, y'all. Like every now and then, it's like, yo, if you want to follow me, if you want to come, join me, right? But there's times where it's a specific instruction. Go with me. Go. Let's go. You know.
Well, he's separating right now. He said,
go, and he's separating the multitudes, but he's telling his disciples, right? Yeah. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Slick. He sent his disciples on a boat so he can get away. Now, when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now, in the fourth watch of the night, Yahusha went to them. This is nighttime. Imagine walking on the sea. Oh man, it's beautiful. I can't do this, y'all. Sorry. I mean, don't expect this from me, okay? I'm not even going to try to do something like this. I don't expect anybody to try any of this at home. Do not try to walk on water at home.
The servant is not above the master.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Do we need to read this? Yeah, this is important, right? It's about faith. 23. There's a lesson here. Yeah, there's a lesson here about discipleship. So Yahusha was walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, is it a ghost? And they cried out for fear. Okay, this might be a stretch. I'm gonna do a little stretching here, Ezzy, okay? Sometimes your leader will not look like you saw him before. Okay? I'll say this in character, in approach, style, whatever you want to call it. Something that's like, oh my gosh, is this the guy that I met? And good disciples will learn to trust their leaders. You know what I mean? And trust that what they're doing. Now, trust me, there are many cults that say the same thing I just said, okay? And it is not good. But there's a truth to it that I think we can pull from here as well. And I know I've trusted people, coaches, employers, I know that I put myself, mentors as well. I've been under different men and leadership in my Christian walk. since I was 16 years old. You know, for 11 years of my life, I was putting myself under a lot of leadership. And even when I didn't understand certain things, I learned to trust the leadership and go along with it. So I know what that feels like. And any wife should know what that feels like with a man who takes charge and takes leadership. And many times they don't understand where we're going or why we're doing what we're doing, but it's important to have that trust. However, when that trust is not there, how does the leader respond? So,
verse 27. Straightway, she spoke to him.
Where is it? Is it a ghost? And they cried out for fear. Verse 27. But immediately Yahusha spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." That's not an easy response for me. I ain't gonna lie. I'll be like, "What is wrong with you? Just listen to what I'm saying. What's wrong with you? Don't you know it's me?" Okay.
You on another level.
I gotta be like, calm down, relax. Be of good cheer, babe. Rejoice. I know what I'm doing. Just trust what I'm doing right now. Yeah, that's not an easy response to me. That's like foreign language to me right now.
So your hand getting hard, like,
yeah, I'm like squeezing her shoulder right now. Verse 28. And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you," and it's nighttime. This is a situation where you shouldn't expect them to see you if it's dark.
And walking on water.
And walking on water. Okay, so
this is a
have some discernment, leaders. Command, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Yahusha. But so what can we say here? Yo, if it's really your will, if this is what you want me to do, just ask me to come. Ask me to join you. That's what a good disciple, right? Even though they don't understand something from their leader, it's like, yo, give me the word. Do you want me to join you on this or not? Just let me know, because I'm not sure. So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on water to go to Yahusha, but he saw that the wind was boisterous. He was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Yahusha stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" I don't got no problem with those words. I can use those words. Those kind of come easy to me. But it's funny because I haven't used this vocabulary as strict as I think I am sometimes. I can't even count in my hand. I don't even remember the last time I told one of my brothers and sisters, "Oh, you of little faith." I can't recall. I'm actually convicted. Like, I think we should talk like this. You know, if I do believe in my heart that you're lacking some faith in this particular area, I should be able to say that. I should have the liberty to be honest with you. But man, brother, you're lacking some faith, man. Ezzy, you got something?
Yeah, something that I see here is, a disciple should expect to be tested.
Yeah.
And also to receive rebuke at some point.
Yes.
That's just as plain as I see it with what the reaction of Kepha or Peter when he says "come" and then he starts sinking, like that in itself I think was a test for him to say "command me," and then he says "come," and he followed. That in itself is a test. If your mentor is, like you said, going someplace and doesn't really, say, "Do you want to come?" But there is an opportunity there for the disciples to say, "Hey, I want to join you on that," or "Can I," that in itself could be a test of your faith or your commitment to the program or to, saving souls and wanting to get better. Because eventually we're trying to be like the teacher. But also the test of the mentor or the teacher, where they are in their faith or in their in their progression, I guess, if you will, because these disciples have been with him for a period of time. So at this point, we've already had a boat situation, and here we are back on the water again, and you still struggling with this. So it's almost like he's being tested, but at the same time receiving a rebuke. So there is this relationship of give and take, but there has to be a level of faith and trust in your teacher or your mentor. So
beautifully summarized. Beautiful. Thank you, Ezzy. Jeff and Sakai, go ahead. Unmute yourselves.
Well, that's hard to follow. I was just going to actually say that you have little faith as a real put up or shut up kind of a statement. It's like, hey, put up or shut up, man. Either you're going or you're not, you know? You say you have faith, let's go. If you're not going, then you obviously don't have it. It's a real good statement to make. And just as a side note, my wife tells it to me all the time. She's like, oh, let's go travel somewhere. I'm like, we don't have money. We're not prepared. She's like, oh, you have little faith.
Nice.
And it works, you know. She's always trying to sharpen my iron.
So y'all already developing that atmosphere and that culture. You know what I mean? So that's not offensive to you if I was to say something like that.
No, not at all. In fact, it's like we push you. It's kind of like we help push each other that way, you know, because it's like there's some things you just normally wouldn't do. Like, oh, it doesn't make any sense to want to drive 4 hours with only this much money. What if we get stuck in the middle somewhere, you know? Oh, you have little faith, you know? And then that's exactly what it is. And it pushes you. It pushes you to rely, to learn to rely wherever you don't have, like, you're not relying on yourself, and you have to learn that. You're relying on Yah. And you got to get out of the gear that I can't do it relying on myself, because you're not relying on yourself. And, you know, have a little faith.
Well said, guys. And I'm thinking of so many things right now, just to build on that. Like, I did sports growing up, man, you know, in high school. I did sports all throughout high school. I played a lot of sports. I know there's a lot of idolatry and self-pride in sports, but there's this dynamic in sports. There's this principle that you learn in sports that a lot of people who weren't involved in team building and team building events that you can't get, right? So like this kind of vocabulary to me is normal. It's normal to push one another, to tell people to suck it up, push, come on, you know, go for it. You know, people who work out, weight lift, there's this attitude, there's this behavior, there's this vocabulary that is not offensive to you. You know, it's actually challenging. You take it as a challenge. And if it's too overbearing, you know, then you just talk to the person like, yo, you know, I didn't like when you went here with it. You know what I mean? But like, I didn't like when coaches were making fun of how people were fat and stuff like that and like really degrading them. I'm like, that's a little too far. You know what I mean? You don't got to do all that. And he claimed to be a Christian, the coach. But like, other than that, it's like, yo, man, come on, suck it up. Come on, let's go. You could do it. Come on, man. Don't be weak. Let's go. Where's your strength? You know? Like, that's important. And so a lot of people who don't have that background, it's going to be like a culture shock, right? If they come into an environment, an assembly, where we talk to each other that way, they're going to be like, yo, these people are rude. That's how they're going to think. These people are really rude. But that to me is, I would say, is good discipleship. I'm not saying everybody's got to say it the same way, okay? But it's the words, these words right here, ye of little faith, to your brothers and sisters should be expected. You should be expected to hear this if you're going to be part of our assembly. And not just our assembly, I mean, I think this is universal, but anybody else? All right, so anyway, yeah, I mean, we know the rest of this story, and it's definitely, long story short, this is the lesson to learn. Like Ezzy said, I think Ezzy summarized it real good. It's a learning lesson right here.
Keep going.
No, I just want to finish 14. Is there anything else?
No, that's all I had.
Okay. When they had crossed over again, they travel with this. They travel with their teacher, man. That's important. They go where he goes, and make a sacrifice. I'm going to end here, but make a sacrifice with your schedules. You want to be a good disciple? Make adjustments. Make yourself available. That's part of good discipleship. Make a sacrifice. Because the less frequently that you're around, the more you miss out on. And it will affect your status and your relationship with the assembly and with the leaders. That is the summary of why we're kind of studying this subject. So we'll end with that one. Shalom.